dude, you almost hit the shield.
Bro, this is so fucking smooth. That is so fucking smooth. Yeah, I need to put a stock on it. It's so fucking smooth.
Well, hello there.
Hello?
And welcome, friends, to the Geissele Super Duty 11.5 review. The Black Friday build that everyone had to wait twice as long for. The rifle that a lot of YouTube influencers tend to trash but have never fired.
This is crazy. I don't know shit about fuck.
A rifle from a company whose fans go on Geissele Masturbate and trash Geissele. And an 11.5 that quite frankly punches well above its price point and its perceived place in the hierarchy, which has pleasantly surprised me in all of the best ways.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
And who doesn't like an underdog story, right? All right, let's get into the specs. I'm gonna be very in-depth with the specs because I missed some things on the Knights video. I don't want people to perceive that as I'm biased towards the Geissele as far as covering the specs. I just forgot some in the Knights video, so please forgive me. First, let's talk about the barrel, which is an 11.5 inch, cold hammer forged, chrome line, 1-in-7 twist, Geissele profile barrel with a .068 gas port and carbine length gas system. Something that's important to note briefly, if you've seen my other videos, you already know, but this came with a 3-prong, which had the Geissele nano coating on it, but I took it off because I couldn't deal with the ring. The rail is a free-floated 10.5 Mark 16 Bendy Boy rail with the receiver that has gonna be impossible to see, indexing key cut into the receiver, which the rail interfaces with, so you will not see the tabs on the side like you would in other Mark 16 rails or other Geissele rails that are bought not equipped on the Geissele Super Duty. Which, as you can see on this HK, is like that. It's a carryover that they took from HK and Geissele put it on their rifles as well. You also have your airborne charging handle. Mine I swapped out with another build because I had a spare from a friend. I wanted to do black and tan on this one. So airborne charging handle, which is going to be color specific to your build. And internally we have the reliability enhanced bolt carrier group, which has a stress-proof bolt, as they call it, made from Carpenter 158 Plus. I don't know what that means, but it's supposed to be really awesome. And it has the nano coating throughout, both on the bolt and the bolt carrier. This one's pretty wet because it's in my brand new 14.5. They did not coat the extractor though, which is very, very smart because it doesn't have any sort of slick coating on it, which allows it to bite into the brass and rip it out of the chamber. You'll also notice a directional cam pin, which is directional.
Look at this. This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is. Wow.
And it's made out of medical grade steel. I don't know what that means or what that is, but apparently it's awesome. So this coating has an 82 Rockwell hardness on the C scale, which is something I also don't understand. But if you watch Sotar, love him or hate him, these gauged very, very well and are very gas efficient. They're also very well built and sprung. Very, very excellent upgrade to a standard bolt carrier. And it is, of course, high pressure tested and magnetic particle inspected as well. So it's a mil spec bolt carrier group, but with a lot of enhancements to give you very, very good performance with some good staking. The loaded weight, as I have it configured in front of you with a 30 round magazine of 75 grain tap, is 10 pounds, 2.5 ounces. And some people are gonna take issue with that. That's fine. It works for me. It's good weight. I also want to preface, I purchased the complete upper on Black Friday, as well as the lower and all the internal parts. I do not have the SSAEX. This is not a full Geissele 11.5 that I purchased from Geissele. I put it together so some of the parts will differ, like the ambidextrous safety and the trigger. The rest of the gun is as it would come from Geissele minus the pistol grip. I changed that too. But all this stuff is Geissele, including the buffer tube, including the Super 42 system, and the super duper checkered pieces from Geissele. So it's 100% Geissele, with the exception of the SVA3 and the Gunfighter pistol grip. So it's not 100% Super Duty from Geissele for those that care, but it still works just fine. All right, what it's good for and what it's not so good for. First thing it's good for, this is the smoothest 11.5 I have fired to date. Period, bar none. Smoothest 11.5 I've fired to date. And that was when I purchased it and put it together myself with the H2 and the Super 42 spring. When it ships from the factory with the H3 and Super 42 spring, which I've since upgraded if you've seen the other video, and it still shoots hyper smooth. In the intro you saw this guy shoot it and it kind of bounced around a little bit, and that's because he didn't have it properly shouldered, but he still got hits on target. And when you pull it near your shoulder and you run it, it doesn't move. GoPros tend to exaggerate movement a little bit, and when you take it with a cell phone or something else from a third person view versus the first person view, you can really see this thing shine. That .068 gas port in concert with the Super 42 and all the other pieces, the bolt carrier group being remarkably gas efficient, it just makes this such a beautiful, beautiful shooting experience. And I really, really do love this upper or the whole package, whatever, even just purchasing the upper and running it that way. I also, as you saw in the intro footage, was allowed to put it on my buddy's SBR lower to see if I liked it with a stock. He had a Knights buffer and a Sprinko blue spring, and it shot just as smooth, if not smoother, because the SOP mod kind of sucked up whatever recoil was left. So super duper smooth shooting upper and overall package. I love this thing. I will never stop raving about it. Suppressed use. despite the CTN at the front, this thing is a great suppressor host. The gas port size, coupled with everything else I just mentioned, makes this a phenomenal suppressor host. I've run it extensively with the Surefire RC2, and it's a blast to run. The CTN lets a little bit of pressure. You can see the scoring. It allows a little bit of pressure to seep out of the can. So you'll get a couple of the rail panels that I put on there to blow off occasionally, but it's not like it's cooking your hand because your thumb's there or any of that stuff. It's very, very smooth. Once the rail panel blows off, you don't even notice. It's just, you pull it up and you go to work with it. Hyper smooth, very, very flat shooting. And an 11.5 is really where you want to be in general for a short barrel. It's that perfect length, I think. I know there's a lot of 10.3, 10.5 guys out there that love their 10.3, 10.5. I'm not taking any shots at you, but the reliability and the service life of an 11.5 cannot be denied. Pat Rogers spoke on that before he passed. But your overall length with a suppressor is just a little bit over 17 inches, and that's quite nice for anything indoors that you might be doing with this setup. So makes it very, very maneuverable and nice. And with the suppressor, it's going to come in at about 11.5 to 11 pounds, 10 ounces ish. So it's not too bad. And this is in the, this of course is with the pistol brace. So with a normal use stock, it's going to be a little heavier. Number 3, it's very accurate for a short boy. It's 1 to 1.25 MOA with good ammo and glass. And I have an SSA in this. I'm sure with the SSAE or SSAEX, it would be a little tighter. That trigger is incredible. But with the SSA, I was able to get a 1 to 1.25 inch group based on the ammo I was using, and I had stellar results. It loves the heavier rounds. It's a 1-in-7 twist. But for a chrome lined 11.5 inch barrel, 1 MOA is amazing. I was very lucky with my skill set to be able to get 1 inch group out of this thing and 1.25. And that's kind of a spread, and that's with 5-shot groups. I'm sure if I try to proof this later or something like that with a 9-shot group, I'll look stupid. But I was reliably able to get this thing to churn out 1 to 1.25 inch groups when I did my part, which is very, very nice. I'm very happy with that. But that's, of course, going to be with your performance ammunition, your cellular and below 77 grain OTM, Mark 262, 77 grain TMK, of course, did the best, and because I have the least of it, it's stored up. Also, the 75 grain tap, I went out a couple more times, and it really started to like that round. So that's what it's 0 now, because I can source that reliably. Number 4, premium performance at middle class price point. It's not cheap, but it's not Knights Armament or HK money, or if you do a full treatment LMT with the enhanced bolt carrier group, enhanced bolt, all that stuff. Once you start tallying on all the add-ons and everything, you can come in at a better price point. I'm incredibly happy and pleased with how this thing performs. The fit and finish, everything, there's a very little bit of upper and lower play, but nothing really crazy. I've had Knights Armaments with the same, if not more. Number 5, color options from the factory fit your AOR specific needs. They have the DDC, the OD green. There's a lot of good colors that they offer that you can fit to your AOR, and having a rifle from the factory that comes with good colors, and yes, I know it's 50 shades of FDE and 50 shades of OD green, but it's better than a lot of rattle can jobs or other things because not everybody's on the same platform. So it's really easy to get a rifle at a competitive price point that is already set up, and all you gotta do is add your shit to it and you're set. All right, what it's not good for. Typical short boy problems. Number 1, long range precision is not its game. It's an 11.5. I know guys are gonna say it's not accuracy, it's velocity. Yes, but you still have to aim higher to get those shots. You still have to work harder with an 11.5 versus even say a 14.5 or a 16 inch. You have to work a lot harder with an 11.5. But an 11.5 was not built for long range precision. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are talking about mini recce this or urban rifle this or whatever they're trying to classify this as. It's a short barreled rifle, essentially, or an AR-15 pistol. It's not designed to do a lot of these things. It can, and you have to be really skilled and practice really hard and have the best ammo in it, but it is not a long-range precision instrument, so don't treat it that way and you won't get let down when you miss.
Emotional, damn it!
Velocity. Now, an 11.5 and this 11.5 are going to have much better velocity than 10.3 or 10.5, but you're going to get easily and quickly outclassed by longer barrel lengths. So with the same exact performance ammunition, be it the 77 grain TMK, Mark 262, Mark 318 Mod O, whatever you want to throw at it, your performance is going to be diminished when compared to those other barrel lengths. Just understand that when you're getting into it, and when you're using one of these, it's mostly for a specific mission set, but most people aren't doing that mission set. They just want a handy shorter rifle or an AR-15 pistol, which is fine, but you have to understand the limitations. And I know, once again, a lot of guys are going to say velocity isn't accuracy. You're going to need a much better skill set and control and everything to run this out to distance. I know Paul Harrell did it with his 10.5. He's a really good shot. There's a lot of dudes out there that can do incredible things with these, but generally speaking, average shooter, you're going to be working a lot harder, and your optic is going to be key. Number 3, what it's not so good for, since it's a short boy, you're going to be running into increased report and increased signature.
Let me get 3 on 12, baby.
3 on 12? You sure can. Is there a problem?
Why the fuck is you so loud?
I'm happy.
Listen, if I ask for 3 on 12, that's not everybody's business. That has everything to do with me and nothing to do with them. I don't need you to be loud.
So your flash and your gunshot is going to be a lot louder than, say, a 14.5 even, or a 16 or an 18 or so on, which is why you need a suppressor. I will say, though, it's better than a 10.3, 10.5, and I've noticed it's slightly quieter. I mean slightly quieter, but it's slightly quieter than my Knights. I don't know what it is with those Knights 3 prongs, but it adds decibels to the gunshot. I don't know why. While it is very pleasant for an 11.5, it's still an 11.5, so it's still going to make a lot of noise. And you're going to have more flash. Next, availability is kind of meh lately, and a lot of it's because of demand, which is kind of funny because all the people that try to trash talk Geissele are out there trying to buy them. So there's a lot of dudes that either can't get their hands on them and are mad, or there's a lot of people chopping at the bit to get them because of how good they are, and they're not available for that reason. The 11.5 is a very, very good performer, and it's going to be very hard to source for that reason. All right, number 6, I think, because I keep forgetting to say the numbers. The Mark 16 isn't the strongest rail. You're never going to get quad rail performance, URX, or the Zev rail.
I hate you.
The Hodge wedge lock that everybody's after, that all these other companies use, but it's not going to have that sort of rigidity and strength, but it's also not going to be the most lightweight either. It's going to be in that middle ground, and a lot of guys are finding that most rails are structured like this. So there's a lot of rails that are the same thickness as the Mark 16, they just don't get dogged on as much. But the Mark 16 rail is definitely middle of the road as far as rigidity and robustness, so just understand, I mean, you're gonna hold zero with your stuff, you can bang it around. I've run them on barriers and stuff, I've plopped it down on things, and a couple of my rifles with Mark 16 rails have slid out of the rifle rack and hit the concrete. F in the chat, boys. They've held up to my use. And there's plenty of guys downrange using rifles with the Mark 16, so I'd really go off of that, but, who am I? And then lastly, Geissele, I don't know if they're gonna get rid of it, and I don't have it on this rifle. This rifle has whatever melanite, nitride, whatever the exterior finish was. I don't know what it was because it's not on the website anymore, but it's either a melanite or a nitride or some sort of standard AR-15 barrel coating that's harsh environment, but they've switched to a black oxide finish, My 14.5 has the black oxide finish, and Geissele knows better than this. They go through and list how good their bolt carrier group is, and they take the time to put the same nano weapon coating on the muzzle device to help you out with suppressors, but then they go and do something like put a black oxide finish on their barrel. They bought their own cold hammer forges. Geissele makes their own barrels. All the Geissele barrels are Geissele profile, and they have a little G on them on the inside, right? The Geissele profile, by the way, it's middle of the road, so if you have a Hansen profile barrel, you see how it gets thick and then tapers and gets thin, and the HK profile does it too, but the HK profile is just thick. The Geissele's in the middle of the road, so it still has a .075 gas block journal, and it's still good for use with a suppressor, but it tapers, so it's thick to just slightly thinner than the collar, which you can see. But Geissele's, I said all that to say, Geissele's making their own barrels, and they know what quality is. And this is probably my biggest pet peeve with them right now, is they're so close to greatness, and then they'll do like one or two little things that will trip it up. And it's very, very frustrating. So I need Geissele to figure that part out and stop using the black oxide finish so we can all be happy. All right, wrapping it up.
What the hell?
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up. Wrap that shit up, B.
Honestly, I love this thing. It's the smoothest and best recoiling 11.5, and it shoots smoother with better recoil impulse than my SR16.
What? What the fuck?
Now, admittedly, this has an H3 with a Super 42 system, and my Knights had the Knights equivalent of a H2 with a blue Sprinko spring. But as you saw in the shooting opener, my buddy let me put this on his Knights lower that had an H2 and a Sprinko blue spring for his 11.5, and it shot just as smooth. It's heavy enough for me to run a dot on, or an LPVO as I have it set up now. And I struggle with having something that's too light. My Knights, when it was just irons, I would overdrive religiously. This with just irons, it was fine. I could drive it, it would stop on target, and I could get done when I needed to get done. The 3-prong muzzle device from the factory is what the limiting factor was on this. So once I swapped it out to the CTN, it was beautiful. I think what I'm gonna do though is put a 4-prong on it so I can get the positive seal and dial out that little bit of distracting overpressure that seeps out of the back of the can so I don't lose my rail covers. But I can deal with the Warcomp seal for now. It's not a massive deal breaker. The only thing missing from this build particularly is the SSA EX that you get from the factory. The SSA is plenty good, and the SSA is my default trigger. With my SD 14.5 and the Two Brothers build, I have two SSAEs. And, well, the SSA EX in the 14.5, but which is a phenomenal trigger, but my preference is the SSA, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, and I've been able to do very, very nice, precise, clean work with this, even with a fresh SSA. This is the 11.5 that I'm generally going to recommend to everybody unless you have Knights Armament, LMT, or HK money. I'm going to tell you, though, that even though those guns exist and they're really solid and they are the top tier, this thing performs on that level. And I don't say that lightly, because I know Geissele gets a lot of smoke, and I know that a lot of people are not happy with certain things Geissele does, and Geissele is generally considered upper middle class, but this thing hits out of its weight class. For it to shoot 1 to 1.25 MOA with a chrome lined 11.5 inch barrel is stellar. And I really just love shooting this thing anytime I take it out. It always rewards me for the time and ammunition invested in the trigger presses. Is just so smooth. The only thing I need Geissele to fix is the black oxide finish. You either need to lower your price because of the black oxide finish, or keep it at the current price point and put the better finish on there that we all know needs to be on there. So please, Geissele, fix the barrel finish. I'm gonna buy a second one of these, it's so good. And it's probably gonna be my go-to 11.5. I have other 11.5s, and I'm gonna have a different 11.5 project that you guys are gonna laugh at, but this by far is my favorite 11.5, and that's even over the Knights, which I never ever thought I would say. And they do a lot of things that hit way out of the price point. Like these right here, I can't get them loose, but these right here are captured. There's a detent in here that prevents these from coming out all the way. Little stuff like that, just phenomenal engineering in this thing. And it definitely hits above its price point. So I'm definitely getting a second one of these, as I already said. If you're looking at one, get this, because it just performs very, very well. You're not gonna really find anybody that says this doesn't perform well. Almost everybody I've seen online, YouTube reviewers, Redditors even, have said this is a phenomenal performing 11.5, and I can only back that up with my experience. It's never let me down, and every time I press the trigger, it puts a smile on my face. Thanks for watching. Take care out there.